today is going to be a fun one, much like we did from DPW Amsterdam last year, where I recorded the podcast live with Vanya Petrovich from Coke. This year at DPW New York, I had the opportunity to sit down and interview Lauren Hymen from Pepsi. The conversation with Lauren was absolutely amazing. We had so much fun. And I think I mentioned this in my DPW recap, but we were slotted for 20 minutes. But Lauren and I got into this. We were just vibing and having a great conversation and talking about all kinds of procurement and digital and AI. And I did rapid fire questions. And she was such an amazing guest. Everybody, all the people working in the podcast studio lost track of time, and we went wildly way over the allotted time. And in fact, actually, it was Lauren that said, well, I think we've hit our time, because everybody was so enraptured with the discussion.
And I have to say, it was done in a subway car.
Yeah, I mean,
if you don't normally watch the podcast on YouTube or don't have a video and you're just listening, it's worth just quickly. It's a really cool and creative setup for doing podcast interviews. So I like that they always try to do something. They at their events or conferences, they make a really creative, fun space for people to do interviews.
And yes, I'm glad you mentioned that, because doing the podcast in the subway car was so cool. I mean, shout out to Herman and Mateus for, I don't know how they came up with that or if that was there, but doing a podcast studio in the subway car was just so cool, and it was fun, and I think it created the right environment. So again, I want to just say, speaking of DPW, thank you to them for sponsoring the podcast and allowing me to come in and interview Lauren, and then for us to then add that to our podcast, because it was so much fun to be part of that and to sit in the subway car interviewing somebody, and in this case, Lauren. It was truly magical.
So before we play the interview, two quick things that I want to say. I took my notes when I listened to the interview. First one is very random, but I like random things. Lauren's favorite time of the day is 8:30 p.m. and she calls it the settling. And I love that. And I think that's really interesting. And then the second thing is she actually doesn't sit on the procurement team, which I think is really interesting. Her role, she actually sits on the strategy and transformation team, and kudos to Pepsi, because I think that's very innovative. And I haven't heard that sort of structure and format a lot in other organizations. So I think that's worth noting, that I think a lot of the things that she's been able to get done in such a short amount of time have had something to do with where she sits within the organization.
And I'll also just probably embarrass her, but she's a really excellent speaker, public speaker. And not only was she was on her game when we were talking, but she also did a keynote or some sort of presentation. I can't remember what it was, but it's out on the DPW channel. So definitely check that out too, because she's got great insights. And she didn't pay me to say this, but I watched her presentation live, and she has great insights. And like you said, Pepsi is very innovative. And they have the last couple of years, they've had a big presence at DPW. So they're really pushing the boundaries. And that's my observation and having talked to all of them for now a couple of years. And so there's a lot to learn for everybody. And what I like, Lauren, like both of us, is honest too. She doesn't sit there and say it's all great and it's purple unicorns and roses and gumdrops and whatnot. She says that yeah, we've hit some bumps, and this has been painful, and that's been good. So you get a mix, and I find that reality, anchored in reality, makes a big difference.
So that's your Lauren club pitch. We weren't paid to say any of this.
Exactly. Total fan club. I think we're fangirling on her right now, I think.
And with that, we will roll into the interview.
Live from the floor of DPW New York, where procurement technology and innovation converge. I'm your host, Elouise Epstein, and today we are exploring the biggest ideas shaping the future of business and transforming procurement as we know it. Let's dive right in. I want to introduce my guest today. Lauren, would you like to give a brief introduction on who you are, where you work, and all about yourself?
I would be happy to. And first of all, I'm honored to be sitting here with you. I'm a poor replacement for Sarah, but I'll do my best. So I'm Lauren Hymen. I lead digital procurement for PepsiCo.
Nice. And how long have you been there?
So I've been at PepsiCo for about 3 years now, but I've been leading the digital procurement movement for about a year and a half.
Okay, great. And where are you based?
I'm based here in New York.
Ah, the great New York. All right, so we're gonna dive right into the big ugly question. So everybody wants to do AI. We are all in, like this whole conference has been about AI. We love it. I've talked about it in my keynote. How are you thinking about AI with also balancing the legacy challenges of whatever, I won't name names, but whatever legacy systems you may or may not have, how are you holding both of those and how do you think about that?
I think the biggest challenge for us is exactly as you described it, this dichotomy, this duality between having to get our foundational systems in order and then look to the future in AI. And so I think the way we're doing it is 60-70% is really focused on those foundational systems with a lot of playing, experimenting in the AI space. What I'll say is that I think that in order for us to really be able to play and test, we have to make sure people feel comfortable. What I would say in PepsiCo is I think people are open to AI, and we've seen a couple of examples of playing around with it. They're just less comfortable with our own data. So we have to show them this is working, this is testing, or hey, we're 70-80% of the way there and comfortable with our legacy systems. So we can build on top of that. So that's how we're playing with the duality at PepsiCo.
That's nice. How are you dealing with the budget? Because that is, and not talking numbers at all, but just how do you think about going for budget for the legacy? Because that's probably, I'm assuming, largely pre-budgeted, but then like getting money for all this AI stuff.
Well, I'm happy to say, actually, Pepsi is super progressive in that front. It's usually not a fight. It's more about where we think we can add the most value. And actually, procurement over the last year and a half has been a place that PepsiCo has prioritized putting the budget because they see the value. I mean, PepsiCo's always been a cost driver. Procurement's always been a cost driver. But when you think about it, if we don't pour money into procurement and upgrade their tools and make it easier for them to do, we're just going back to the suppliers over and over again and just hammering them, okay, reduce your costs, right? So I think because procurement is seen as a value driver, we're actually starting to see more and more investment into the procurement function. And I mean, this is super exciting, but our CEO in a recent video was talking about should cost models. I mean, I never thought I would see the day where that would happen.
Seriously, I don't think I would have ever imagined that in my at least work career. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, next thing you know, your CEO will be talking about the agents he built.
Oh, okay. We're definitely not there yet, but we're close. We're close. Yeah, I see a future.
That's good. How tightly are you working or not with IT?
So actually, it's interesting. About a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, we actually reorganized our organization. So we used to have a strategy function, a shared services function, and then a separate IT function. And that's actually been all brought together under our strategy and transformation leader. And so we all actually sit in the same function. I mean, ironically, I don't actually sit in procurement. I sit within this strategy and transformation as the representative for procurement. So I like to think that I have two bosses. I sit on the procurement leadership team, but I actually roll up into this strategy and transformation office. And I think it really helps because as opposed to IT doing their thing and the business doing another, I actually help and say, okay, this is what the business needs. And I direct all the funds from an IT perspective.
Oh, that's really interesting. And that's definitely unique because the other folks at your sort of level and role that are here and at DPW Amsterdam, they are genuinely part of procurement. So
They are, and actually, I'll tell you. So last year at DPW, PepsiCo had a huge crowd. We did speak, Marcelo and Athena, but I actually brought all of my IT partners with me because I think a lot of my peers, we talk about this, but okay, we go to these conferences and we get super excited, and then we come home and we say, okay, IT, we're ready to go, and they say, no, we're not doing any of that. So I actually sat there with my IT partners and said, go talk to these folks and see what we can bring into our organization, and I think it made a huge difference over the last 6 months.
That's amazing. So what sort of themes or ideas did they bring back from Amsterdam?
One of the ones that I think was crucial for us is, and I know your opinion on ECLM, so I'm not even getting into a whole thing about that, but there was a whole section on contract analytics solutions, right? And that's an area that we're exploring. And so, of course, as a large organization, it's likely we're going to have a big CLM, but we also said, okay, but are there things we can do quick, dirty, to be able to get the AI analytics we need from our contracts in a faster way? And it's something our tech teams would never have really thought of, and we're piloting a few things now.
That's great. Are you going to bring them back to Amsterdam this year?
That's a great question. Now, we do have to always be cost conscious, so we'll see who makes the cut.
Oh, and how many did you bring here to DPW New York?
There's 6 of us here.
6 of us, yeah. That's a great number, and to really keep that continuity going. So
it's nice. Last year at DPW New York, we only had 2. It was smaller. And so It's helpful just to bring in new faces. I mean, we have people who've been before, so they know what to expect. But it's such an inspiring conference. It's helpful to get everyone on the same page. There's only so much I can say when I come back that's meaningful.
yeah, exactly. Well, kudos to you for bringing and sort of having that presence. Let's pivot a little. Let's talk about bosses. And I want to keep themes that Sarah and I have talked about in dual source discourse over time, because I'm very curious, good boss or bad boss story, your choice.
Oh, it's hard to choose just one. Can I do one of each?
You absolutely can do one of each.
Because I think you learn the most from both, right? I mean, one of my first bosses that I had in my career, I learned the most in, I would say, a negative way. But I had a boss who basically shared with me, I'm an overly enthusiastic person, and she encouraged me to put my hand down, that I wasn't leaving space for others.
Ooh.
Now, look, I think with all feedback, it's good feedback, right? Because I think what she was saying is find a way to be collaborative, inclusive. And I think that's served me well, hopefully, for my whole career. I think the part about lowering your hand wasn't great. But I think that's helped me, because as I pivot to my best bosses have always been the ones that say, collaborate, come together, find ways to bring in new voices. So it's really the exact opposite of that.
Okay, I'm going to ask you the delicate question on your first boss example. Do you think she would have said that if you were male?
I've gotten asked this question before, and I don't know. I've seen it both ways, and I don't know if it's a gender thing. It could just be a personality thing. I can't say it's one or the other. But I think the most important part about it is less about the gender side and more, I want to make people around me comfortable, regardless of their background, their situation, any of those things. And that's what I learned. Whatever it was about me, it made her uncomfortable. And I want to be in a place where I don't make people around me uncomfortable.
I love that. That is a great sort of tagline of, I don't want to make other people uncomfortable. And that, I'll tell you, certainly resonates for me. And so that's great. All right. If you could be a category manager for a category or commodity for a non-CPG company, what would it be and why? And walk us through that.
Okay, can I say I don't want to be a category manager?
You can say that, but give us a different procurement job and
Okay.
tell us how you would like to do it, approach it, but not a CPG company.
Okay. Well, I will say I've always been passionate in the indirect space. I mean, I like partnering with the front part of the business, understanding their requirements and helping see how procurement can add value even on the top line. So I think it would always be kind of in the indirect space for sure. But the reason I answer that question is I like to be at the center of change. And what we're doing now in procurement, it's what's attracted me so much about DPW, digital procurement. Like, we've seen this explosion in the procurement over the last couple of years, and that's what's excited me the most. So I love my category managers and I love my procurement folks, but I think I'd always like to stay in leading bold change.
And there's not a lot of people that love change. because a lot of people run from the change or hide from it or
sure.
want nothing to do with it. Give us your top example of best practice for change, for driving change.
I think, first of all, it starts with the individual. So I can't go out and talk about change without doing it myself. Actually, I was super inspired. You came to talk to PepsiCo a couple of months ago, and you said, just test it yourself, right? Yeah. So I have a reminder every morning to use AI. No matter what, no day goes by. If at 8:30 at night, and that is my favorite time of day, that I haven't used AI in some portion, I will. So I think it starts with the individual. So I can speak to it, I can get comfortable with it. And that's really the first step. The second is surrounding myself with people who are much smarter than me and constantly asking questions.
Oh, I like that a lot. All right, we are going to pivot. Oh, sorry, one more question and then we'll do the rapid fire. What do you love about DPW? And then I'm going to ask you for at least one area for improvement.
I mean, there's no conference, supply chain and procurement that I've seen like DPW. It's energizing, it's exciting, it's, can I say sexy in the procurement world? Because it's just, you
can absolutely say sexy. I mean, it's a vibe, right?
It's a vibe. It's a vibe, and I love it. It really belongs here. It's perfect in Brooklyn. But so I love the energy. I always, sometimes you get so bogged down day to day, you forget to take a step back and just see what's out there, what's possible. And for me personally, connecting with my peers and seeing then what they're actually doing and bringing this to life is really exciting. I think that's probably would be my answer about what I would improve. There's not a lot of space to connect with my peers and talk about that. In fact, actually last year, I'll call out Globality. Last year, Globality led a session right before DPW New York started. And they brought together about 15 of us that were all kind of leading digital procurement in our different companies. And I think it was supposed to be just like a quick intro where we went around and we said our names and the company we worked for and what we knew about autonomous sourcing. And what ended up happening was we all spoke for like 5 or 10 minutes about our own tech stack and what we were piloting and what we were doing. And it was the best 30 minutes I have spent. I'm not sure how much Globality got out of their sales pitch, but it was fantastic. And I think it would be nice to do more of that because I see a lot of really cool things, but I'd like to see a company as large and complex as PepsiCo and really hear from them. I think that's what's most meaningful for me. So any vendors out there, tell me who's actually using your tech would be my recommendation.
Oh, I like that. That's a key one. I actually give that feedback to the vendors when I talk to them. I actually did see you networking with one of your peers. I was watching from afar, and you looked like you were having a really great conversation yesterday. And so I do like that feedback of more time to connect with the peers or practitioners to connect with the peers.
So I'll call him out, Jared, who's leading digital procurement at Walmart. But we actually met at DPW in New York, and we've stayed connected and share tech all the time. And I think it's what's been most meaningful. So, and I enjoy seeing it.
And it's those connections that make what I feel is our profession so great, especially in the digital procurement, that we're all here to help one another, or at least in the practitioners. I watch. I help Jared. Jared helps me. I help you. Yeah. And we could probably list out 100 names between us of just people in a community.
And we need to. We can't all do it individually. We'll never be able to. So we need to rely on each other for that.
Well, and there's way too much information out there. I mean, I can't keep up with it anymore.
Same.
Exactly.
I mean, I rely on you, Elouise, so you better keep up.
I'm getting old. All right. So I don't know if you've seen the Vogue where they asked 73 questions. So I'm inspired by that. So I'm going to ask you some rapid fire, although you don't have to just give one word answers. We can explore these a little bit. But first thing you do in the morning.
Okay, so I am a runner, so I do run every weekday, and it's been a practice I picked up in COVID, and it keeps me centered. It's my me time.
Oh, I love that. With or without music or headphones or a podcast?
Actually, I always have headphones, and it's because of this. So little known fact is I live very close to the Pepsi office, less than 2 miles. And so while I love not having to commute, I lost all my commute time. So I think of the run time as my podcast, book, music. If I want to listen to something, that's my time.
Oh, nice. I love that. Favorite time of day? You said it, but say it again.
Yeah, so it's 8:30. So I have 2 young children, and they're both in bed by 8:30. So I've just come off of a wonderful bedtime routine. I don't want to say I don't like being around my children, but usually that's the time where either I get to catch up on things throughout the day, special time at home with my husband, but it's just the settling at the end of the day.
Well, and I have to think, I don't know the physiological piece, but having done a bedtime routine with your kids must, like in a positive way, release endorphins or like I failed science, but like, you
It
know what I'm asking, right?
it just puts it brings happiness and joy. It
Yeah.
centers me. And I think the last thing is being on a global team throughout. I mean, I wake up in the morning, hearing from everyone across the world, and by 8:30 most people have settled down, and that's where you can really just focus on the things that are important.
Yes. I actually, just as a sidebar, we used to not be in Asia all that much. I mean, Carney was, but not the division I was working in. And then I remember we opened up Australia and China, because on the West Coast, like you wake up and Europe has been online for most of their day. The East Coast and Central has been pushing and pushing, or they're just getting started with their day. But by 2, 3 o'clock in Pacific time, it's like
Dead.
it's dead.
Yeah.
But then when Australia and China came online, it was like all of a sudden they started picking up at 2 and 3 o'clock, and I'm like, when did this happen? Like,
When's the downtime, right?
yeah, there's no downtime anymore. Okay, next rapid fire question. Thing you can't live without.
My children and my husband. That's it. Everything else can go.
That's a great answer. All right, favorite color.
So it's purple. I haven't been at Pepsi long enough, but eventually I will bleed blue. Okay, Pepsi listeners out there. But I went to undergrad at Northwestern, grad at NYU, and I bleed purple always.
Yes, so purple is my favorite color. And interesting, Carney rebranded about 5 years ago to purple. So
Perfect for you.
so it's funny. Like I'll wear a purple dress, and it looks like I'm representing Carney. But
Perfect for you.
yeah, it's exactly. Best travel hack/hacks can be multiple.
Don't travel with children. So I started my career in consulting, and I would have had a plethora of travel hacks for you. But now it's, as long as there's no 2 children running around me, that's the perfect hack.
Okay, so how do you manage with like, are they toddlers or are they a little older?
They're a little older. They're 8 and 6 now, and the other travel hack I would have thought of is to have, which is not really a hack, but to have TSA pre-check, et cetera.
Mhm.
But this is an ongoing debate in my household. My husband is a defense attorney, and he has strong opinions about government having your data. That's a whole different podcast we could lead on
I
that.
definitely would love to do that someday.
But so he doesn't have TSA pre-check. So usually it's me and the children, and then there's a question whether he'll make it on the plane.
Yeah. Do you, I mean, like, do you travel often with them? And like, is that like, how do you prepare for that? Because I see a lot of parents with kids on flights, and it doesn't look like they're having a great time, but
Emotionally. No, I think so. When I was younger, it was very funny. I used to take little candy bars on the plane with a little note saying thank you in advance. And I've seen people do this with little alcohol bottles. So there's a lot of ways to do this and do it well, but just, be kind to the people around you. That's all I'll say.
Okay, that's good. Sink or swim career moment.
I'd honestly say it's this job. There's been a lot of starts and stops at PepsiCo in digital, in procurement. I mean, it's so common, right, with procurement, centralizing, decentralizing, bringing it together and not. And, the biggest challenge and obstacle we've overcome over the last year is just there's a lot of really good energy at PepsiCo, people who really want to do the right thing and just harnessing that and bringing that together. And so I think when I was asked to do this role, that was the part that I was most anxious about and the part I'm most proud of.
Oh, that's great. I love that. What are you reading or watching at the moment?
So I don't have a lot of free time. I mentioned the kid thing, but actually I just started Family Matters with my daughter. I haven't watched it since I was a kid, and it's actually super progressive. So we just watched the second episode with the mother, Harriet Winslow. She gets let go from her job actually because of digital technology. So she was an elevator what do they call them? But
yeah, operator.
Operator, right. And they replaced it with technology. And so she ends up going into her boss's office and demanding that he give her this new security job that required manager experience that he said she didn't have. And she said, I manage a household and I can do this job. And I thought this was unbelievable to hear that kind of character development. What was it, 25 years ago?
So many years ago.
Let's just leave it there. Let's just leave it there.
Exactly. Well, and it's funny. There's two sort of, when we go back and look at things from the 80s, like, well, at least my childhood. I won't date you.
Thank you.
But like there are some that were wildly progressive, like All in the Family,
Yep.
and some of these other shows. But then there's some that are equally cringy, and it's like sort of let's just say a lot of misogyny in those 80s films in ways that were sort of supposed to be funny, but like with different lenses and more maturity. It's like, what were we thinking?
And how do you explain that, especially to a newer generation? I have an 8-year-old girl, and she doesn't even understand what's happening. Like, how do I even explain that? And to be honest, I don't want to.
Yeah. And I don't. I mean, just my personal opinion. I don't think you have to. Like,
That's the hope. That's my hope.
Yeah, it was a different time, and doesn't mean it was acceptable, but yeah. Yeah. Anyway, that might be a whole nother episode, because.
So we have a couple side ones. We'll take notes for later.
But there were a lot of things. I mean, same with queer characters, but also there was a lot of just gender. Like, I don't know. I was into heavy metal, and there was just playing with gender. So anyway,
Objectifying. We could go on and on.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
We definitely have to do that podcast episode. All right, dog or cat person?
Neither. And actually, I'm trying my very hardest to keep my children away from having pets. There's a member of my team who's here with me this week from Dubai. She has like 10 dogs and cats, and she picks them up on the streets. And I will not allow her to speak when I'm in my working at home anymore, because I don't want anyone hearing that this is an option to have so many pets. Okay, so no pets for me.
No pets. Okay. Guilty pleasure.
So I'm a big reader. But I like two ends of the spectrum. So I like nonfiction, especially I like business books, but also a lot of biographies that tend to be my thing. And then I really like romantasy. So when I'm ready for just a complete disconnect, very into romantasy.
Romantasy, I love it. Thank you for being
honest
about that. We might take that one offline too.
Yeah, but we're not recording that.
No. Best gift you received at work, and this will be our last question.
So right before I joined PepsiCo, the last company I was at, there was a woman who worked for me who gave me it was like a coaster, but it was a piece of glass, and it said something about basically, keep this with you, keep breaking those glass ceilings, you've inspired me. And I was really touched. You never think about the impact that you're leaving day to day. You're just thinking about what you're doing and trying your best. And I keep it on my desk and think about it in everything I do, that I'm hopefully paving the way for the future.
That's really beautiful. So Lauren Hymen from PepsiCo, thank you for joining me on this DPW podcast on Dual Source Discourse. When we play that later, you are an inspiration, and I really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you for joining me.
My pleasure.